probably make this saying up, but here it is. Actually, the last word I added to it. This is dope. So, life will bring you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free yet. If you want the yet, you can grab it. If not, you can hold on to the first part of this. Life will bring you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free yet. If you want it. So let me explain. So me and my wife got this crib, right? And God told us even before we moved in that people, like it's a nice sized house and it's not that many of us there. My kids are kind of grown now. And God told us that people would come to stay with us who we need to help physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, and get them in a better place. So people have been coming through the house from all over. In fact, we had a prophetic word say, this guy said we were going to be like Joseph was. And that sounded great, but the people who came to Joseph was broke down, and we didn't realize that until they started showing up. It was like, oh, snap. Anyway, so my niece currently is the latest one to live with her. She's a single mom, 2 kids. Everything was going cool. About 5-6 months in, me and her get into a heated discussion. And she's being disrespectful, and I'm bubbling. I'm getting upset at this point. And my wife is there, and I'm getting upset. And I was mad because she had her daughter was out by the pool, right? And her daughter, she's 7 years old. She shouldn't be by the pool. Not just 7, she black. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. That's not something we just naturally do, just swimming around. Anyway, so we got in a heated discussion about that, right? And I'm raising my voice. I don't raise my voice. I haven't raised my voice since my son specifically was in grade school. I just don't raise my voice. It's just not something I do. I don't try not to raise my voice. I just don't raise my voice. But I find myself raising my voice. And the discussion is getting heated. She's being a little disrespectful, and I'm bubbling. And my wife says, y'all need to take a break. And I was like, oh, okay. So we take a break, and I'm bubbling. But anytime I'm upset with somebody, anytime I feel a little something, I always ask, is there any truth here at all? And the only thing I got from her and what she said after I tried to figure it out, 2 things that weren't true at all, but I had to look for something. She said that I don't listen and I try to position myself to be right. That's what I got. That's my version of what she said. And I'm bubbling. But I'm like, this is completely untrue. But what if a portion of it is true? What about my wife? If this is how I am, then it's showing up all over the place, even in my marriage, and I don't want that. On a scale of 1 to 10, me and my wife's relationship is probably a 9.5. But I don't want to settle for a 9.5. I want to dig in. So I go to my wife. I'm still mad. She's sitting in the office. I'm like, look, she's tripping, first of all. But here's what she said. She said, I don't listen. I try to position myself to be right. I know it's not true. You don't even got to say nothing. Just be quiet, and I know that we on the same page, that this is not true, and we're going to go back in there and finish it. And I said, it's not true at all, is it? My wife said, well, when she said, well, I was like, snap, what? Now at this point, I got to pray. So we got this room in our house just for prayer. For the most part, we just pray in this room. So I go in this room and I'm praying. It's like anyway, I'm going there, I'm praying. I'm like, God, you got to show me this. What is this? Because at this point, it is no longer a horizontal thing. It's probably not even about me and my niece at all. God is trying to show something, because life will bring you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free. I need you to understand that. So I'm bubbling and I'm upset and I'm like, oh, and I'm praying. I'm like, Lord, you got to show me. And I got nothing that night, nothing. I think it was because I was too upset. The next morning I'm still praying. I'm like, Lord, you got to show me what this is. What is this? Trying to be right, trying to position myself. Like, what is that, Lord? And then God was like, you want to know? I was like, please, like, what is this? And God said, grade school. I won't tell you the grade because some people have a tendency to look up teachers, and I don't want to. The teacher, she did everything she could. But God said to me, grade school, you were put into a special ed classroom, and you didn't want to be there. And I remember this. I was put into this special ed classroom, and the other kids would make fun of me. And I was doing everything I could to get out of this classroom because I didn't belong there. There were some other kids there who had some significant visual issues, and now I'm in this class as well. And I remember working really, really hard on an assignment, super hard, and I handed it to the teacher, and she gave me a D, which is the lowest passing grade. Then the next assignment, I just blew it off and just put any answers in there, and the teacher gave me a D. And then I remember the teacher saying to me, she said, why don't you skip class sometime? You're never going to be anything anyways. And God said to me, you're still trying to prove you don't belong in that class. How do I get there if not for the conflict? How do I get that revelation if not for the conflict? I had to press into the conflict to get that revelation. And then I did this thing where I gave just the burden to God, which is what I'm going to show you in the video, on how to only get, because God doesn't want everything. He said, cast your burdens on me. God didn't want me to say, Lord, take my niece, take this pool, God was like, I gave you all of this stuff. I trusted you with this. In fact, I'm using it so you can recognize this burden is here, so you can hand me this burden. Life will bring you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free. So the conflict that you have right now is just a symptom of the fact you're not free. It's not horizontal. It's vertical. God wants to do some work on you. But here's what happens. My niece is in my house being disrespectful to me, so I had some options, technically. I could have put her out of my house. I could have just ignored her for the rest of the time she's with us. I could have just not engaged as much, which is what a lot of people do. Or we could have did this, and this sounds great. We could come to some sort of agreement. There's no freedom in an agreement. Hey, you're not going to do this. There's no freedom there. Look inside, and there is some money there. I'm telling you, but here's what happens. Most of the time, we just try to ignore it. You'll do something like quit that job as opposed to dig inside and say, what is this? But then what happens when you quit that job and you get another one? The same person is there with a different hairdo. Life brings you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free. Or we do this. We'll give it a name so we don't got to deal with it. We'll give it a big name and add the word phobia on the end of it. Or we try to beautify it and make it acceptable. We'll give it a cute name like pet peeve. Or he just know how to push my buttons. You ain't got no buttons. You got a belly button. That's it. It is an opportunity for you to grow. It's almost as if you're made out, imagine if you're made out of wood, right? And God has you here so you can be sanded down in the perfect shape you need to be. You got this big knot of wood still right here. There's this big knot of wood, and God wants to sand it down. And he's going to send people and circumstances to sand that down so you can fit through the door that is shaped exactly like you. But instead, as soon as somebody shows up, as soon as your wife says something, you're like, no, back up. No, I quit that job. I ain't going to that church. And you walking around with this big knot right here, completely unaware of the fact that God is trying to sand you down to get you where you need to be. Life, I'm telling you, it's happening right now. Some of y'all got some conflicts cracking right now, and you mad at them. You got to look in here and be like, what? Ask this question. Say, what is this coming up in me? Lord, show me this. And then I'm telling you, he'll show it to you. He'll show you where it came from, and then you deal with that thing. Because if you don't deal with that thing, you're not going to be able to get to where you're supposed to go. Like on the real. Man, this thing is... Hey, let me ask you a question. How many people flinch just now when I reach for the microphone? How many people got a little tight when I reach for the microphone? Why? This is a completely different microphone. It's a completely different scenario. We saw somebody come out and change the microphone. Yet you're still having a reaction to something that happened before? Even though God may be telling you, listen, I want to amplify what I'm doing in your life. I want to do more. I want you to grab the microphone and do so much more. But you're still flinching from something that happened before. Some of you, had I not finished up this illustration, some of you actually unknowingly would have left and saying, you know what, I don't like when pastors and speakers be using microphones. I don't know what it is. Just something about microphones, man. They need to have on a headset. Literally, that would have been part of your understanding had I grabbed the mic again and had the audio fell the way it did. And you would have left and been cool with it. And then God sends a pastor or somebody to your town and they talking on a microphone and you can't receive it. I don't know. I'm telling you, do this work and watch. First of all, let me say this. I'm excited about the conflicts you have in your life. I'm actually pretty excited. Some of y'all got some conflicts that keep showing up. You ever know a girl, she get involved with this dude and he ain't no good, and then she break up with him, And then who she find? This is the same doggone dude, and you bubbling mad. And you trying to tell her what to do. And maybe that whole relationship, maybe whatever's going on or a portion of it is really about you asking a question, what is it? What's coming up in me? Why do I dislike that dude this much? There's money. Here's the thing I don't know. I don't understand what people do when they don't know Jesus. They know they